Yeah, so they're telling Crystal citizens what's good for them. How many Crystal citizens are clamoring for all of these improvements and all of this investment? How many of you are out there knocking on the doors of your legislators and public officials saying, we've got to have this?
Well, and I would even add, I was down at the Capitol probably 6 or 7 times during the last work session, and I saw a lot of people assembling, either it was for lower taxes or for education or for immigration. I didn't see anybody demanding an extra walking lane on a street somewhere. I mean,
Yeah.
this is top-down planning. And the real thing is that, is it really fair? I mean, you talk about federal money. Is it really fair to take taxpayer money from Vermont and Utah and Tennessee, send it to Washington, and then send it back all the way down to a city level? How much money is lost simply by doing that? Keep the money local and let the local people make the decisions.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And here's the thing. I mentioned Crystal because, well, I live here. But, I mean, you can go to any city's website. You can go to Golden Valley, Brooklyn Center, Brooklyn Park. You can go to Osseo. Each city has to have a 2030 plan. It might be called a comprehensive plan. It might be called a 2030 plan, and it's on their website.
Right. And by the way, if you look up New Hopes, I got to tell you this. Make sure you have enough room in your hard drive to download the PDF. It is 761 pages of what they want to do by the year 2030. And look, they might not be trying to take away your house or anything, but they might want to redevelop the place you buy groceries or redevelop the place you get your car fixed. And by the time those plans are in motion, it will be too late to stop them.
Okay, that's over 700 pages for just one city.
Yep.
And roughly how many cities have to submit plans to the Met Council?
189 communities are required to do that.
189 times 700. Well, once these communities have this plan in place, then they're done. They don't have to do anything anymore, right?
Yeah.
They have to update it every year.
Yeah, that's a
Every
requirement.
year?
Every year.
In fact, here's the statement. This is in the Met Council's annual report. 189 communities are required to update their local comprehensive plans every year. Under state law, the Met Council, the unelected body, I added that in there, reviews these plans to ensure that they conform with regional plans and priorities for transportation, aviation, wastewater treatment, regional parks and trails, and are consistent with regional policies on housing, demographics, and water supply. I.e., your cities are not answering to you, they're answering to the Met Council.
Well, what if a city like New Hope says, we don't want to do this, we're going to opt out?
Well, they can get fined, can't they?
Fine.
Yeah, they can. So, again, it's another tax by an unelected
Right, it's
group
another
of people.
backdoor.
But the Met Council isn't the end of this either. Again, it goes back to the federal government because they are required, the Metro Council, to update their plan every 4 years by the federal government.
Right, and that goes to the Department of Housing and Urban Development, the Department of Transportation. They all have I mean, it's amazing how many arms of government have got their hands in your transportation dollar. And we keep hearing, got to spend more on infrastructure.
Yeah.
Well, spend what, and who's spending it, and who's planning it?
That's the thing. I mean, that $8 to $8.7 billion. I mean, that's just highways. That's just for transportation in general. But when we're talking transit, that's a separate bucket. And that's where they want to spend about $475 to $515 billion in transit cost.
That's billion
That's
with
going
a
to be
B.
that's going to be a federal thing.
In 2010 dollars. And we all know that the way that the dollar is going,
Well, that's nothing. President Obama spends that on his lunch break.
Yeah. Well, so they want to do all this reconstruction to our local, and they say that if you're a pedestrian, you have trouble getting around. In fact, they say highways are a barrier for pedestrians, and they want to remove barriers, it says a few bullet points down. Now, I don't know what that means, but
remove highways.
or build bridges to go over them, which is very expensive.
Yes, yes. And we should add that another thing that is part of the 2030 plan is regional parks and trails, which have been in the news a lot. They keep forcing, and one thing that we do need to say is that cities can veto these things. Cities can stop a regional trail. Now, the 2030 plan, the Regional Parks Policy Plan, which is, by the way, 108 pages long.
Yes,
Just the parks.
it is.
Just the parks.
Just the parks.
Parks and trails combined. Right now, we have 231 miles of regional trails in this area.
239.
Yep.
Okay, that ought to be enough for anybody.
That's 38 regional trails total.
Okay, 38 regional trails.
Yep.
Well, we've got to have enough of those, right?
No.
Also,
No.
can I just add that we also have 54,633 acres under the regional system and 51 regional parks and reserves.
Yep. That would be things like Elm Creek and
Yep.
things like French Lake and things
Yep.
like that. Now, they want, of course, 231, that sounds like a lot of miles. That's further than it is to my lake cabin.
Right.
They want to increase it by 2030 to 1,000. Now, somebody tell me where
1,000
Yeah.
miles
of
of
regional trails.
Yep.
And they want to enhance. Listen to what they, I'm sorry. Listen to what they want to enhance. Walking, of course.
walking.
Hiking. Biking. I'm sorry. Listen to this other thing. Here, there's two other things they want to enhance around here. Bird watching and stargazing.
Bird watch 8.
Are they going to cut out all the lights in the city? Or
Yeah, you know,
We
you can't
need-
stargaze in your backyard.
We need
No.
750 more miles of trails and so on, so people can bird watch and stargaze.
Yeah.
Wow.
They do that in January around here. Can you
Yeah,
bird
sure.
watch and oh, okay.
Wow, yeah.
Some penguins walking around.
Yeah. Well, it's not just the length of the trails. They want to plan to expand to 70,000 acres as well.
Yep. And again, that's money that probably comes off the tax rolls.
Right?
And then
does.
the excess
Has to.
cost, because of course city government will just whine and moan and gripe, will pass that cost off onto you. So you're going to pay two ways. You're going to pay higher property taxes, and you're going to pay for these things to be built.
And you're going to pay every year for the maintenance of all of these public lands.
Right. I mean, and I will say this. I use the Medicine Lake Regional Trail once in a while. That already, when I've been on it, it needs to be striped again. There's cracks and stuff. I mean, what they tell you it's going to cost and what it will cost in the long run are two completely different
Yeah.
numbers.
Well, let me throw this at you. If you have a house worth $250,000, and this is they put this right out there for you, that you're paying $64.38 in taxes to this regional trail system right now. That's just the regional trails. I mean, that's coming from state grants, regional grants. There were, 476 million just in state and regional grants given.
Legislative earmarks.
And 119.5 million in state funds. So it's more taxes. But 64.38 with what we've got now, and they want to increase it,
Quadruple it.
quadruple it. So take that times 4, and that's what you can expect to pay to be able to maintain all of this.
You might want to ask yourself if you're getting your full $64 worth of use out of these. This is just the trails and stuff.
Yeah.
Every year, much less increasing by fourfold the amount that you're going to be paying.
You know, we should mention something too about the Met Council itself. One thing that in 2010 they were operating at a $23 million deficit.
A deficit means they're spending more money than they're taking in.
Yes, they're not investing enough. That's
They're not
what they would say.
right.
And where they get their money is another source of friction, because $220 million of it comes directly from the state of Minnesota. Now, some of that money is earmarked for pedestrian bridges and whatever they want to somebody wants to bring back to their area. $100 million a year in transit fares. In other words, only about 13% of the money in, quote, revenue is coming from the people who are actually using public transit.